Welcome to Crypto Sapiens, a show that hosts lively discussions with innovative Web3 builders to help you learn about decentralized money systems, including Ethereum, Bitcoin, and DeFi. The podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and it is not financial advice. Crypto Sapiens is presented in partnership with Bankless DAO, a movement for pioneers seeking freedom from the limitations of the traditional financial system. Bankless DAO will help the world go bankless by creating user-friendly on-ramps for people to discover decentralized financial technologies through education, media, and culture. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Humpty Calderon. Today, I'm chatting with Joshua and Chair of NFTP, creators of Rainbow Rolls. We take a look at the NFT project and its mission to fund public goods, including wiping away medical debt for families in need. We also discuss Web3 native tools as an on-ramp for institutions and individuals to increase their charitable giving and potentially reduce their tax liabilities too. Let's get started. So why don't we get started with you, Joshua? Give us a brief introduction to your crypto journey thus far, how it got started, and really how that evolved and developed into launching NFTP and Rainbow Rolls.
That wouldn't be a short story, so I'll cut out a lot. I was doing competitive intelligence, some refer to it as corporate espionage, at Lyft. We got the company IPO ready, and then they said, you guys have 6 weeks to find another job at the company, or no thanks. And it was a pretty well-paying, decent field job that was a lot of fun. And I got an offer for $105 to sit in a desk in San Francisco. I was taking a Consensus Academy course at the time, and graduated from it. Met some folks at Consensus, Jacob Cantelli, who's the head of product at MetaMask, and they were hiring. So I ended up going to Consensus. That was how I ended up down the rabbit hole in Web3. They went through one of their rounds. I got let go, went to Eat Denver to find a job, found one, started getting into that was at Opolis. We provide like healthcare employment benefits for folks working in the Web3 space, which is what I needed because I didn't want to pay for Cobra. So I started as a member and then became a team member. And part of that was getting into all these different DAOs and becoming a community member and trying to learn about the Web3 space and open source at Gitcoin and giving back at Giv.Eth, and started embedding in all these DAOs and helping people onboard to Web3. And Bankless came along. So collecting all these great groups along the way that had helped me learn and go down my Web3 journey. And so then when we got to, it was a Twitter argument between this guy, Stephen Cole, who's a infamous Bitcoin maxi, who's also a friend, and Hudson Jameson, who's the former community manager of the EF. They were arguing about, he said he sold all his Bitcoin because of something, and then Stephen said he sold all his ETH because of whatever, but he sold it into toilet paper. And I said, well, at least toilet paper is deflationary. And it was the only joke I've ever told on Twitter that was actually funny. And then a few things cascaded in there. A bunch of BS NFT projects. These just cookie cutter PFPs were just selling out off of just copy and paste garbage. And I was like, well, we should do copy and paste garbage, but for public goods. And then it evolved to maybe we shouldn't produce garbage. Maybe we should produce something that's very high quality. And so we got a very talented artist that we were able to bring in, who's still anonymous, and will definitely be producing more NFT stuff because I think that they really enjoyed this experience. And then, we started putting a team together, and that's where Chair comes in.
Cool. Yeah. What's up, Chair? Give us a brief intro of your journey as well.
Definitely. In 2016, I was in the Joshua Tree Desert at an unsanctioned rave, and started talking to someone about how interesting it was that Bitcoin had gone from 600 to 1,000. This person turned out to be an ETH dev at the time and still is. and told me to very seriously sit down and look at Ethereum, because I was completely focused on Bitcoin. This was like fall or summer 2016, and by 2017, I had started like going down the teach yourself to code path, because I had looked at Solidity and Ethereum and like recognized that there was something happening. But I wanted to validate myself the claims, like the incredible claims people were making of how revolutionary this could potentially be. And then realized that I probably needed to learn to read the code to really understand. But then I had to learn to code. So long story short, I went on the self-taught software developer route, got myself a job at a healthcare coordination app as a support engineer, and was promoted up to like engineer. And so got my foot in the door from the builder aspect, but it was not within the Ethereum space. Then around, just as COVID hit, I met Josh. He was at Opolis. He showed me the path to I'm married and have a family, so need to be cognizant of things like insurance and things like that. So found out about Opolis, went completely Web3 at the beginning of this year. And at the end of August, when the most busy I've ever been, and was telling myself daily, say no to everything that's coming in right now, Josh pinged me and said, "We're doing toilet paper NFTs. Are you in?" I said, "Of course I'm in." And that's how we got here.
Oh, that's cool. So there seems to be a connection point between the two of you, and independently too, that has to do with Opolis, which I think is a wonderful project, and certainly one that I want to invite here as well to explore, because it's very different from a lot of other Web3 projects, and I think absolutely necessary too. But it's really cool that that is something that there was a need there, and there was it brought you two together as well. So that's really cool. It's also cool to hear that you had a Web2 coding job. You saw the value in building or educating yourself in how to code, but transition from that sounds like very quickly into Web3.
The goal was always Web3, and for I wonder now. I think about now why I came to the conclusion that I had to go like Web2 path first. It just seemed like, that's what resources were most available at the time. But the stack that I was working on was a Ruby on Rails stack, and was um, no Solidity in there, obviously. So I'm still sort of coming up to speed from that end, but I don't know. It's interesting now to see the difference between the Web2 world and the Web3 world. It actually validates my decision, that seeing how things work over there and what we're doing here. It's pretty validating.
Well, I think to your point, in terms of like, why did you need to go and do that where your goal was always to be in Web3? And maybe, just maybe, it's because it's a bit of a psychological thing, isn't it? Where we feel like work in the traditional way is, Web2. And that's really where we're going to find that work. It's almost probably a little more difficult to comprehend that those same opportunities or more valuable opportunities can be found in Web3. It just maybe because it's not such a common way to go about the way that we work. But also maybe at the time, opportunities weren't as visible. So I wonder, do you think that with the explosion of DAOs, that has made this type of work more visible and the onboarding experience easier?
I think more visible, certainly. Onboarding, we will see. I think we're just now going through the first public awareness explosion. We're just at the very precipice of that, and it's probably through NFTs and everything that's happening in DeFi. But now DAOs are the main focus, and we will see over the next quarter to year how well we do onboarding the public. I think we have more attention. The space has more attention on it than ever. And it's something I think about a lot, like proof of onboarding. How do you know when you don't have to hold someone's hand through the Web3 landscape anymore? And there's usually a moment that you realize, oh, you've got it, you're good. You'll have some questions, but I think you got it. And so, yeah, that's we will see. I'm not sure. It's I try to onboard one person every day, so I have my own experience. But we'll see as a space, like how many people stick around. I think they'll stick around.
Dude, that's a lot, Share. One every day.
It doesn't happen. But then I get 2 a week if I try to do one every day.
So my answer to that question would be absolutely. And similar to Chair's, like there's so many great organizations out there that are working on onboarding, but because we're decentralized, there's no like official onboarding place. Like Bankless is a great onboarder. Index Coop does a good job. And then the point about NFTs being the onboarding, like, so there's this obfuscation of, I don't know, securities law, just law in general, by like, it's a company, but it's not a company because it's a DAO. And people will buy this NFT and they'll be like, wait a second, this NFT is part of a community. What governs this community? And then they'll jump into a Discord and it's like, oh, there's a token permission chat. That's like, thanks, Collab Land. And then, but who makes decisions for the overall? And they're like, oh, this is a DAO. And so they start to learn about the rails of Web3 through these NFT projects. But it's a very different onboarding than what a lot of us went through. Or like if you started reading the Bankless newsletter or the podcast, or if you got the uni airdrop because your friend made you use MetaMask one time, all of a sudden you're now a DeFi native. And welcome to DAOs.
Well, let's get back on track here and let's talk about, NFTP and rainbow rolls. So can you describe the difference between the two?
So NFTP we were in this group chat and I said, all right, we've got a toilet paper project that we want to do. What should we call it? And Mitch was like NFTP just immediately because it's like NFT with a P on it. So non-fungible toilet paper. And then we were trying to figure out whether we should call the actual suite NFT because everything is using these alliterations. And so we're like, all right, well, how do we create an alliteration for the actual suite that is the 10K project? And I actually can't remember was it Kyle, Chair? Who came up with
I was
rainbow
going
rolls?
to credit you for coming up with rainbow
No,
rolls.
I didn't. I don't think it was.
Then it must have been Star Garden.
So we're just like, they're toilet paper rolls. And so what would be the alliteration? And then we were talking about sushi, and then we're like, all right, rainbow rolls.
I'm a sucker for alliteration.
We all are.
Okay, that's cool. So in its current state, then Rainbow Rolls is a project that was developed by NFTP.
Yeah.
And so as far as Rainbow Rolls is concerned, what is it really trying to do? Like, how is it differentiating itself from the NFT garbage as it was described?
So at spending 1 week at NFT NYC, there still wasn't anybody who even came close. I met one other guy. I wish I remembered this project so I could plug him. They were giving away 33% to charity. I haven't seen any that. Well, and then you've got Iwaki's where 100% of those go to funding open source, but none that were really focused on charity and open source. So our project, every one that's minted, which is 0.1337, the elite amount of ETH, 16.5% goes toward Gitcoin, 16.5% goes toward Giv.Eth, and 20% goes to RIP medical debt. And one of the interesting things about RIP medical debt, and they've been great partners. They've got a few representatives in our Discord who will like hop on and answer questions and do AMAs and stuff. They're super happy. Obviously, we'd like it for more of them to sell out, but so far we've raised a decent amount for them. And what they do is they buy medical debt that is sometimes slightly older or has already been in collections for a bit at a massive bulk discount. So they're able to buy anywhere between, like, the newer fresh debt would be at like a 50 to 1 ratio, all the way to like 1,000 to 1 ratio. But the last average we got was that they're buying, the last bulk set of debt that they bought was 90 to 1. So when you do the math on what is it, 20% of 0.1337 ETH ends up being like, what is it, like $650 or something? I did the final part of the math was when you multiply it by 90, which is their ratio, every single roll minted actually wipes $11,500 worth of medical debt. Which, yeah, when you're like, it's like you're thinking about a family, or like not even things that are, you step off the curb and you get hit by a bicycle and now you've got a broken leg and your insurance only covers most of it. Like you're on the hook for that deductible because most people have trash insurance, so you have to pay for the first 5,000-6,000 anyway, and then that's going to collection. So being able to wipe just 11,000 per is just, it's life changing for people who have that debt.
Since we're talking numbers, I have them in front of us. We have a big DAO meeting coming up this Friday where we're going to talk a lot more about this and have representatives from each organization that is benefiting from the Rainbow Rolls sales, and we will be talking about DAO governance and how we're moving forward. But at this moment, Giv.Eth is receiving just over 16 ETH. Cool. Gitcoin also receiving just over 16 ETH. RIP medical debt about 19.5 ETH, and the DAO, the DAO is everyone who holds an NFTP Rainbow Roll plus the core team has 10 ETH also to allocate where we decide to. And so
it sounds like so far we've raised about 100 ETH,
just shy of 100 ETH at this moment.
Right, so we have to mint a few more by Friday.
Yeah, and you haven't sold out yet, so that's encouraging. The fact that even at this stage, you're already having
and almost
an impact,
double the impact,
right?
From where we started, because ETH was at like $3,000, and by the time we do these distro, fingers crossed, ETH will be $6,000.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the value of ETH keeps growing, right? And I mean, I think a lot of that, at least in my opinion, comes from the fact that there's really cool projects that are increasing the demand for ETH on Ethereum. So for me, the question that begs to be asked is why? I mean, it makes sense why you would want to go this route with, contributing to charity, contributing to public good. But for anyone who doesn't understand, why would you do this? You're in crypto. There's you can raise this money. You can use it in different ways. Why did NFTP Rainbow Rolls seek that way of working? In other words, distributing money to charities, distributing money for public good funding. Like, why is that important?
It's we have similar but different answers between Josh and I. But like for myself personally, it's really it seems like the more that I give back, the more like that cycle of abundance keeps manifesting, and there's a couple of reasons. So I mean, I try, but like giving back is very important, and when there's a project that is as the team came together, we haven't mentioned it yet, but we really Josh brought together an amazing collection of builders and community people, DAO people within the space. Like really, like we've said, all-star team. I think that like is true, from the Solidity devs to the tech leads to all the community people we have on the core team. And so beyond the fact that it was a charity and like public goods driven mission sort of that we were looking at, it was like, could not say like this is the team that I would want to be a part of, and the people that I wanted to work with. So we also if we realize, I think Josh brought it up first, was that if we have a DAO that is tasked with allocating money, like charity, or allocating charitable donations every month, we have an excuse to come together every month and at least once a month, for the good of everyone, make poo-poo and pee-pee jokes for public goods and charity. And it can never end.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a human function that'll go on till the end of time. Hopefully. Elon Musk doesn't take that away from us. So, seriously. I would say, so the mentality comes from my mentor in the space, John Paller, who's the one of the founder of Opolis and one of the founders of ETH Denver, about the law of reciprocity and like putting out into the universe without expecting anything in return, and just giving back. And that by giving back, I know it does make sense when you think about like, because the point of giving back would be to receive from the universe, but that's not why. Like, it's just about doing good and putting it out in the universe. And the more good you put out in the universe, the more good is going to come back. It's just, there's going to be net more good in the universe. That's one side of it. And the other side of it is, I've got a good friend who likes to poke fun at me by calling us all fascists, because that's what is the most loud and visible on Twitter, like Bitcoin maxis and talking about hard money and the Fed is ruining everything. And like, it goes down like very strict libertarian holes. And there's a lot of fascism in a lot of the thinking, and that's the loudest. And people who are outside the space see that kind of crap first before they see all of the community building that we're doing, like the DAOs, the DeFi stuff that sits on top of DAOs, the NFT communities. They don't see that stuff. They see, someone alleges that NFTs are damaging the earth, and then we call them stupid. And that's like that's not a two-sided, like, no, actually NFTs are not, burning fossil fuels. Like, it is alleged. It's just ridiculous. But there's that, and then there's so much glut and trying to think of the word, extravagance, that just, especially like not as much yet because we haven't really gotten to frothy, but like in the 2017 cycle and the 2014 cycle, like when there were so many like Lambos and people were, the YouTube videos. I don't know if you guys remember the YouTube videos. There's a lot of them been taken down, of like somebody has 2 Lambos in their garage and it's just like a selfie video, and it's like, you just got to buy Cardano like I did, and you can get these 2 Lambos. And it's like, but there's like, we're headed for not that specifically, but something like it, where it's like people are turning over like not just down payments on houses, like whole houses, just flipping like a punk and it's, or an ape or Fidenzas or other stuff, right? And so there's just so much what the world outside can see is just rich people playing rich people games and just fucking around on the internet and not doing anything for good. So we're like, you know what? We should try to do both. And if we could, obviously we didn't have a stellar mint and we didn't mint out and create, people are talking about the floor, and which would have raised significant amounts more for charity. Would have been great if we had that, but eventually we wanted to play in that game while giving something back. We haven't seen it yet, but I think that we will. Minting doesn't close, so it'll just go on.
Yeah, there are a lot of, we've learned a lot, and in talking with Griff Green from Giv.Eth, who is a huge supporter of ours, and I mean,
amazing human. If you guys don't know him,
an incredible person. He kind of he showed me the angle that he, coming from a public goods and sort of charitable project in Giv.Eth, he's like, it's, people are skeptical of charitable. He's like, it's a hard thing. Like, charity NFTs aren't an easy thing to market, because people come in with a certain amount of skepticism, but people will YOLO into whatever the Yearn deployer deployed that day. Like, so it's an interesting it's an interesting thing. Like even in this environment, people are more apt to YOLO into something that they did no research on than into public goods or charity, which I guess that's our mission. That it's kind of clearly laid out for us then. But one lesson we learned was that while we had an incredible team of builders and community people and DAO people, marketing is so important, and we did not focus on it at all. In
Nope.
fact, it's like it didn't even exist. So since then, we have utilized Raid Guild, found an incredible marketing person in Launch Ninja who is helping us, do a relaunch, as it were. And so things are kicking off this week more internally, and then next week, well, whenever this is released. But we have taken a look at what we have done, learned from our mistakes, and putting out the word of rainbow rolls more correctly.
Yeah.
And it's another opportunity to use Raid Guild, but also between now our marketing lead and our artist, it's two people who are completely non-Web3 native that are being brought in, that are learning the landscape through the lens of NFTP and rainbow rolls, which is that also, like, to be able to put very capable people who have a place in Web 2 and probably will forever. They don't ever have to leave, like until everyone has to leave. But they're here now working in this space, and just that alone, and they're working on a charitable project. I think just that alone will hopefully exponentially show others that there is space here.
I think the one thing I want to add to what you said, Chair, in terms of public goods being not being as appealing or maybe attractive or even getting the same type of attention as these other projects that people are aping into. I think for me, I think it's the language isn't necessarily there yet either. It isn't part of people's vocabulary in this space, right? I think very few projects, to the point that I think Josh made earlier, are actually focusing on public goods and charity and contributing to these type of projects. And so I think that's one thing that it's our job to talk about more regularly and be a part of the discussion, and just normalize it. And yeah, I think Gitcoin's certainly one of those that are leading the way on that, but I can see how NFTP through rainbow rolls can do the same. It's just definitely something that is going to be not top of mind for a lot of people. But I know that when the rainbow rolls launched, the conversations in the channel, because I did get my role, you see it up there. I have my avatar up. It was actually really vibrant. There were people from the Bankless DAO that I recognized in there as well, and they were saying, for me, these type of NFTs make more sense than some of the other ones that are getting dropped, right? Because there is something that is, adding value, not just to the ecosystem, but just to humanity as a whole. And, also maybe there was some alignment there, like, oh, look, this is something that I have personal experience with. So I want to make sure that I am now that I'm in a position where I can fund this type of, charitable work, and do so in a fun way. I feel like it's my responsibility to do something that can
On
help
that note,
others as well.
we've been trying to figure out a way to make this, or at least part of minting a rainbow roll, tax deductible. We're working on the paperwork for that. But so since 63% of the funds are given away, it'd be like basically 0.084 ETH of every mint you'd be able to write off.
See, that's another thing that people don't talk enough about, right? I mean, we all talk about aping in and high yields, but the taxes is definitely something that we don't talk enough of. I mean, I saw some chatter about it, in some Twitter spaces I've been popping into, but yeah, we don't really have that. So I think that's a wonderful way to also attract people to the project, because it's now a service, right? Both to educate the community, but also for those who are contributing to understand how charitable giving
Yeah,
works.
you mentioned like people feel like an obligation to participate because this is something they're familiar with, and I think this might be this might be the first. I don't know. I don't think we're trying to make the claim that it's the first charitable. It's like not the first one, but it's like it's an interesting. We're starting to introduce like the functionality of Web3 and DAOs into holding a charitable NFT. What does that mean? What does that mean for the future? And like when we think about signaling, like a lot of NFTs are signaling, especially PFP projects, and Bored Apes and CryptoPunks seem to be like the Rolex watch of um, NFTs, and that's cool and that's fine. Like people should reward themselves, but if a Bored Ape is a Rolex, then a rainbow roll can be equated with a Sierra Club bumper sticker on your car. You know,
It's about right. It's about value proposition, but it's also about positioning. Like, what are you saying that aligns with people's interests, values, right? And I mean, I think that there's a lot of power here that the project has in terms of like a conversation that it can own. And I think having worked in corporate America in the past, I know that around this time of year, a lot of charities are, talking to, these other institutions saying, hey, if you are in a position, you should be donating to charities now, because guess what? The end of the tax year is coming up, and you want to be able to contribute as much as you can to reduce your tax obligation, right? Your tax liabilities. So maybe NFTP can do something similar, because again, I think for me, every project that is launching and kind of increasing the visibility of Web3 and crypto has a role for onboarding new people, for increasing an adoption based on their own narratives, right? Like I think the reason why Bitcoin and Ethereum have a lot of value is they have very strong narratives. I think we can look at NFTP almost like a narrative unto its own, based on what it's able to do, both with public good funding and charitable giving, where there is a narrative now that speaks to people who maybe understand tax liabilities and are looking for ways to reduce that. And rainbow rolls might just be it. That's an
there's
interesting
no reason
thought.
not to mint the max 20 per transaction if you are tax minded.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's all about narratives, right? I mean, it's just like memes on the internet. Like having a strong narrative is important for any project to succeed, and really having a unique differentiator, so that people can say, oh, like not only is this value aligned to who I am, but in terms of where I'm at right now, this is something that I absolutely needed. It just feels like NFTP and Rainbow Rolls could be that. It just might be a timely moment for it if that's what you were planning to do in terms of a relaunch.
Yeah, the tax deductibles business side of it, I'm hoping that will, and it's I think people it's going to start to open people's eyes more, I think, and it might even, if it might inspire even more projects to do something like this. But that as that gets solidified, it's hard to say too much before everything is set up. But we have to assume, like, if we're dealing with 501(c), at least in the United States, like entities, then this is the natural progression, or it seems to be. And it's probably a matter of time before charities are releasing their own NFTs. It really it's got to be right around the corner.
That's kind of the point of doing good.
Yeah, I mean, I think philosophically, one of the things that, in my opinion, is DAOs have a strong value proposition to communities is doing good for the sake of doing good, right? I mean, yeah,
I actually meant doing good, like DOINGUD, Manuel Zuru's project. Doing good. They're doing an NFT. I don't want to describe it incorrectly. I think of it as like an NFT launchpad for nonprofits and charities, or a framework that it enables building in like fractional donating.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about what the roadmap or the future looks like for Rainbow Rolls. Like, what are some of the thought experiments? I know we've talked about a little bit of what you're planning and maybe some positioning into the future, but what from the original vision of the project, like what can we expect from Rainbow Rolls in the future?
Definitely. So originally we envisioned a quick and hasty sellout of 10K. That didn't happen. But what we're realizing is that even still, we have made a significant dent, and there's going to be some significant funds distributed, and it's pretty amazing. So knowing that at least in this collection alone, in the Rainbow Rolls collection, we have over 9,000 still available, and as our community, like we're just now building out a strong community. We have like a core group, let's say, of holders and supporters and people who have signaled how interested they are. That's like very strong. So as we approach our first DAO meeting, which I don't know when this probably won't release in time, but I do invite people to come into the NFTP Discord. You can find the link at nftp.fun, nftp.fun. That's also where you can mint the Rainbow Rolls. And so joining the community, we're going to have monthly DAO events. We are going to be signaling that Rainbow Roll holders will be able to signal which projects they would like to route the 10% DAO allocation to on a monthly basis. And we're also doing, one interesting aspect of this is that the way that we are donating to RIP Medical Debt is through their Giv.Eth project profile. And we've also found there's I don't want to dox anybody, but there's a community member who reached out to us and showed us some of their medical bills, and it's a person that we that's been around, that people have known for 2 years in this space, and so we're able to donate directly, like direct to action, to them through their Giv.Eth profile. And that is what's most exciting to me, the direct to action stuff. Like if there's a primary like motivator for myself in this, is that how much of this can we put directly into the hands of people that need it the most, whether it be from the medical debt standpoint or in the Giv.Eth and Gitcoin communities. Like we can give projects exactly what they need to be bootstrapped, and that's sort of direct. That's what this space represents to me. It's like cuts out all the fat, direct to action, and that is what we're steering things towards, having the entire community involved. So, in a nutshell.
I think that was a good answer, and probably better than the approach I would have taken, because I was going to say that we have to figure out the remainder of this mint before we talk about what V2. But since you asked, I think the V2 will look different depending on what the landscape looks like at the time it's ready. The initial idea, and this is just a dream that I've had, and not at all what V2 will look like, just to put that out there as a disclaimer. So how there's a lot of, we haven't really got into NFT meshing yet, where you've got a bunch of different ones and you like to see them all in one image. Like we've seen a couple of them where like people will take their ape and they'll put a Fidenza behind it or something. The idea being you'd use the Rainbow Roll as like fuel to like flush into a toilet with a few other NFTs that you're holding in your wallet, and it wouldn't burn those, but it would create a new image with that. You'd be burning your Rainbow Roll, and then you'd be taking the source material that you own to create a new NFT. which is kind of the like flushing.
Pizza DAO is taken. I believe there are going to be 8 Pizza DAO pizza pies featuring a rainbow roll on them, and they're active in our server. So hopefully we have more projects like that, and you might see rainbow rolls popping up in interesting places. There's also some people have seen it, some people have not seen it, but anybody who's holding a rainbow roll under the 11 different properties or trait characteristics, there's also a cleaning power boost property. And because we have game devs on the team, things like boosts and characteristics and traits and things like that can easily be spun up into interesting V2s. And we're also looking at that as well as how do we gamify this. I'll pause it right there because I don't want to scope creep my own team, but that is sort of that's as much breadcrumbs as I'll throw out.
And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you'd like to learn more about NFTP and rainbow rolls, go to nftp.fun and on Twitter at rainbow_rolls. Thanks for listening to Crypto Sapiens. Please give us a follow, like, and a 5-star review wherever you enjoy your podcasts, and stay tuned for our next discussion.